You should be seeing it now.
Yep, living on the edge.
So Rich started saying like there's not a lot of news, but we had a big news like last month where we released Cribl Suite 4.1. We announced a bunch of features with Cribl Stream, with Cribl Edge, with Cribl Search, as well as Cribl Cloud, right? So along with some of the features that Sean is going to talk about today in Appscope as well. So a lot of features went in, and on this call, we are specifically going to focus on Edge and what came out with 4.1. So my name is Brarath. I'm part of the product marketing team here at Cribl, and joining me is Sri, who is the guy for everything Edge, right? So he owns Edge, the product from a product management standpoint. So he'll be showing some cool demos today around what we released with 4.1. But before that, I just wanted to do a quick level set as to what we actually came out with. So what's actually new with Edge 4.1? So we touched some themes around 4.1 release, right? So we released new features around our container support with Edge. We also introduced new sources for like a journal source here for Linux operating systems here, as well as we sort of streamlined our Windows development. So the whole Windows and Edge story, we sort of streamlined the whole packaging and whatnot, and as well introduced our monitoring back into the Edge dashboards. So the first thing here is we are experiencing a ton of interest around Kubernetes and containers. I'm sorry, it's the formatting is sort of jumbled here. It actually reads NODE node, and these are pods. But anyway, so we always had support for containerd runtime in Kubernetes context, and we always support Docker runtimes for collecting logs and metrics and whatnot with Cribl Edge. And what we also introduced in Cribl Edge 4.1 is the support for containerd runtime in standalone environments. So that makes Cribl Edge support all possibilities of container environments out there, right? Whether it's standalone or on Kubernetes, right? So which makes it very compelling for deploying Cribl Edge in like rich container environments, and especially when Kubernetes is sort of getting a lot of adoption, right? So a lot of interest as well, and we are hearing a lot of Edge deployments going into Kubernetes. So if you are someone that sort of is evaluating Edge for Kubernetes, absolutely feel free to reach out at the end of the session or ask questions during the session as well. So the other enhancement we did was we introduced a new source for journal in modern Linux machines. You know, the systemd is more widely used now and then the journal D is basically where you're going to collect all the logs for those Linux operating systems or machines, right? So basically, we introduced Cribl Edge source for systemd, which is going to collect all of your journal files, and then we also introduced journal integration with Cribl Search, which means you can search for data in place without having for it to be moved to a central location, right? So with Edge, you can search journal information in place, right? So which is, again, going to accelerate your time to insights without having to move your data to some central repository and then indexing and analyzing it. So which is something we are very excited about. So if you are particularly interested in this use case around collecting your journal files with Edge or analyzing what's on these files with search, right? So feel free to reach out to us as well. And around Windows, we are doing a lot of streamlining, as I said. So we had like multiple versions of installers around EXE and MSI before. So it was getting slightly cumbersome based on some feedback that we received from customers for customers to deploy and manage it on an ongoing basis. So we have sort of consolidated our deployment into an MSI. So and then for customers that are automating your deployment, either with the legacy Windows system configuration, SCCM, or the latest Microsoft Intune, right? So that the SCCM rolled into, it makes it very easy to deploy your window or Edge to your Windows endpoints in a more scalable manner. So look out for more enhancements in the Windows space. So we already have support for Windows Event Collector / Windows Event Forwarder with Cribl Stream. So we have heard a lot about Windows laptops and desktops and observability around that. So we do support Windows Event Forwarder / Collector as a source with our Cribl Stream, right? So with Cribl Stream and Cribl Edge, you sort of have a comprehensive solution for your Windows environments. And last but not least, Sri is going to show you a demo of this. So we have improved how the operators that deploy and manage Edge are able to sort of have visibility into how Edge is operating by giving more metrics around how Edge itself is operating at a fleet as well as at a sub-fleet level. And if you forgot, so we introduced sub-fleet as a feature in the fleet management story in 4.0. So yeah, this feature sort of enhances your visibility into how the fleets are operating at scale. So with that, I want to show you a meme and turn it over to Sri for a quick demo of Edge and all the goodness we released with 4.1. Over to you, Sri.
Thank you very much, Brarath. Hello, everybody. My name is Sri. I'm the product manager for Edge. I hope you can all see my screen here. So I just have a local installation that is running. I'm just using this. I'm just using a Docker installation, and I have about 3 nodes that I just connected. So let me start with the features that Bharat actually talked about. Let's basically go ahead and look at the last one where Bharat talked about the visibility into how your sources and destinations are performing. In our 4.0 release, we have consolidated the Edge UI in providing at fleet level events in and events out and bytes in and bytes out, the performance of that in the Edge fleet screen itself. If you really look at it, you can definitely select whatever fleet you are, and for that particular fleet, you will be able to see all the monitoring functionality out there, right there. In our 4.1 release, what we have added is this health metrics. This health metrics actually give you at a fleet level what are the sources that you have configured, what are the destinations you have configured, and how the data is flowing through it, how the compression is happening if you are actually compressing it, and how the processing is happening. This is available on a per source, per destination, and also for routes, pipelines, and also for packs. You can see this information. This was already available as a part of our Stream product, but on the Edge, this was only exposed on a per node level, but now we have consolidated that and we brought it into the leader at an individual fleet level, right? Now, there are a couple of gotchas in doing this, right? So typically what happens is this puts a lot of load on. If you have too many sources, too many destinations that are configured, and you have too many pipelines, then it tends to put somewhat of a load on the leader. But what you can do is you can adjust what you can adjust what you can see here. So you can go into the fleet settings, you can go into the limits, and you can go into metrics, and you can see and you can select what sort of metrics that you really want to send from the edge nodes back to the leader. The minimal metrics means you will just see what you have seen in 4.0, the total in and total out. The basic is what I'm showing it here, and all means you will get everything. There are so many different metrics that we collect as well, and custom you can fine tune whatever you want. So do explore this feature and see what works, what doesn't. There are some performance considerations, and you can go look at this edge performance considerations to see if you have like really a lot of edge nodes, you can fine tune your performance based on what we have documented here. So that is that feature. Going back, let me show you what I have here. The journal files that Brarath just talked about. How this is your journal files. There is a new source called journal files. You can configure the journal files. So, unfortunately, I don't have any journal files running, right? So that's the reason why you see that that as red. You can pretty much the key things that you want to configure as a part of your journal files is basically what is it that you want to filter out of your system journal, and at what severity. You can add expressions like severity, or you can add expressions like priority, stuff like that, right? Stuff like that right here. And there are a couple of things that you can also tweak. If you can definitely say, okay, do not look beyond this date. For example, do not look beyond 1 week if I have or say, okay, just limit it to for the past 4 hours or stuff like that, right? And you can also limit the amount of the amount of events collected for the journal by basically saying like just do it for the current boot only. In other words, it will not get you anything beyond the current boot. So that's just a brief this thing on the journal files. The journal files is a source. You can definitely connect it to any destination. You can either connect it to Cribl TCP or Splunk or anything else, just like you would do with any of your regular sources. That's the second piece. The third piece that I really I wanted to kind of show you is one of the cool new features that we have actually added as a part of our as a part of our 4.1 release is you see the fleets and subfleets here, right? Now, in our previous 4.0 release, when you make a change when let's say you make a change to the top level Northwest fleet, then you have to go and basically commit and deploy all of the subfleets underneath that individually. In our 4.1 release, we added an option that actually says that, okay, just deploy with subfleets. The moment you say deploy with subfleets, every subfleet, it'll go ahead and actually deploy in all the subfleets all across whatever changes that you have made, right? It's a very powerful feature, but it's also a very dangerous feature. Just make sure you use it very wisely. That's all I can say. Going to edge nodes, what we did was we added something called as a bootstrapping scripts. Brarath talked about the Windows nodes and how we have consolidated the install and all that. What we have also created is earlier we used to have a bootstrap for a Linux where you can copy your Linux command. You can copy the Linux command. You can either run it on your node to connect that node to the leader, or you can actually program this in any of your software deployment tools to deploy to a lot of different edge nodes. Now, what you can see here is you can also see that we provide you with the same kind of information for Windows as well, and also for Docker and Kubernetes. The bootstrap scripts are now available for all of the things that we support. I think that kind of covers a brief demo of the features that we talked about. Tony and Rich.
Cool.
Back to you.
Sounds great. Yeah, that was wonderful. Does anybody have any questions for him while we're in this short, small interstitial pause?
I do.
Yes, what's that?
My understanding is that if you ran Edge on a Linux system as a non-privileged user, that you would have to use something like POSIX ACLs on operating system log files in order to monitor them, right?
I believe so. I can go back and get an answer to the question. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, so like if I ran Edge as user Cribl and it's unprivileged, it wouldn't normally have access to things like varlog, syslog. I'm curious to know if using the journal data source
Yes, you should be
allows
able to.
one to monitor those things without.
I believe you
using
can.
ACLs.
I believe you can because journal probably. But let me confirm that. Right.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. We'll have an update on that question in Slack after we're done here,
Yes.
maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. That sounds great. All right, if there's no other questions, and I don't see anybody else unmuting themselves, so thinking no, it's off to Sean.
Okay.
All right, welcome, and the stage is yours.
Thank you. Do you see my screen in my terminal? Can I assume that's a yes?
Yep, the nice
Yes,
terminal
yes.
screen here.
Okay, good. I'm sharing my screen using Zoom on Linux, so anything could happen, so please bear with me. So I'm Sean Baleo. I'm an engineer here on the Appscope team, and today I'm going to talk briefly about what Appscope is and how it fits into the Cribl suite of products. And then I'll demonstrate 3 unique capabilities of Appscope. So these are instrumenting Go apps without any code modification, instrumenting processes running in containers, and inspecting decrypted HTTPS traffic. So before we get into it, what is Appscope? Well, it's an open source instrumentation utility for any Linux command or application. It allows users to explore, understand, and get visibility into their applications and services without any code modification. It's capable of instrumenting any application, including static and dynamic Go apps in any environment, including muzzle-based distributions like Alpine. And it produces observability data in the format of JSON events, statsd style metrics, payloads, and crash files. So how does it fit into Cribl? Well, Cribl's overarching goal is to unlock the value of all observability data. And with Appscope, you have a much faster and easier way to get data out of your applications, systems, and services. And in addition to that, Stream and Edge have built in Appscope inputs that can readily accept and process Appscope data. And in coming releases, it will be possible to remotely configure systems to scope applications using Edge. So let's dive in and look at some of the unique capabilities that I want to demonstrate today. First of all, I'm going to scope a HTTPS server written in Go. Here's the code for the HTTPS server. So I'm using the HTTP package to serve a single line of text in response to a GET request to the hello endpoint. Pretty straightforward stuff for Go. I've already built the program, so I'm just going to go ahead and run it. I'm going to serve up my endpoint at 4430 in the background, and I'll add the word scope to my command to load Appscope into the process. And then I'm going to hit the server with some client requests from curl to start getting some data flowing. So I sent two curl requests and I got 2 responses back from the server. And now I'm going to look at, see if we have any metrics and events generated by Appscope. So in the events output, I can see file system events, I can see network events, and I can see the HTTP requests and responses visible to the server application. In the metrics output, we can get back process information, protocol activity, network activity, and file IO. So that's me scoping a Go HTTP server process. Another popular Go app is Terraform. So I'll further demonstrate Appscope's Go capabilities by executing a series of Terraform commands and scoping them. I'm going to start a TCP server to accept connections from Appscope, and I'm going to pipe the output of that server into JQ. In another terminal here, I'm going to export some environment variables to ensure that every process running in this bash session gets scoped, and I want all the data to flow out to my local TCP server. So I'm just going to paste this in here. So I exported 3 variables. One of them is a path to the Appscope library. I've disabled Cribl output, and I've set an event destination of localhost port 9000. So what I'm expecting is that any process that runs inside this shell should be scoped, and the output should be sent to my Netcat server over here in the background, and the output should be piped to JQ. So let's see if it works. Okay, I ran a Terraform inet command, and you can see that it was scoped, and the output was in fact sent to our background server over here. We'll have a look at the events in a minute. I'm going to run some more Terraform commands. So you can see that for every command that I ran, I was able to see Appscope events flowing out of Terraform and into our TCP server. Some of the events, we can take a look at some of these here. So we have a console event here. This is data being written to standard out. We have a network close event, file system close event, and a ton of information from our Terraform commands. So next thing I want to do is demonstrate instrumenting processes running in containers. So to do this, I'll start a Redis container. Start it in the background. And I want to attach to this Redis container from my host using Appscope. We need root privileges to do an attach. So we have successfully attached to the process running in the container from the host. And what I can do now is start to stream events and get metrics from the container file system using regular commands on my host. So in this case, I'm streaming events. I can also take a look at metrics. So we can see some file system activity, process activity, all coming from the Redis server process running in the container. I can run the scope ps command. That will show me that my HTTPS server process is being scoped. Redis server process is being scoped. And I still have a Terraform process sitting around, which is still being scoped. That's gone away now. So if I decide that I have what I need for my containerized process, and I want to end the Appscope instrumentation, I can execute the detach command and detach from all of those processes. So to recap on that last part, what I did was instrument a process running in a nested container without any code modification or configuration, and we were immediately able to get meaningful observability data in JSON format from the host environment. For the last section, what I'm going to do is look at some HTTPS traffic. I'm going to show that Appscope can inspect decrypted HTTPS traffic without much configuration. So I want to issue a HTTPS request to the weather service wttr.in, and I want to scope this command and turn on payloads. So curl has given us a response from the weather service, and I can run scope events. I can see a list of events from the session. If I look at the HTTP events, I can see the HTTP scheme was HTTPS. So the network activity was encrypted. I can run the scope flows command and check out all the flows for the session. The one I'm most interested in is this one here. this is the connection to the remote server to get the weather report. So if I run scope flows and pass in that ID, I can get more information about that network flow, things like the host IP address, the peer IP address and port, and some files that were written to. I'm interested in looking at the inbound payload that came from the server, that came from the curl server, sorry, from the weather server to my curl client. So if I run this command, I can see the unencrypted payload. So one big advantage of Appscope versus other instrumentation tools is that it can look inside the encrypted payloads to get you a clear text payload. You don't have to store the encrypted detail from the wire and the certificate to be able to use a tool like Wireshark to inspect that unencrypted data.
Sean,
So that's it.
There's a question that just came in.
Yeah.
From Jason. Can you scope an application that is already instrumented by something like App Dynamics or Dynatrace? In that case, would scope be affected by the task that the other agents are doing?
I believe, yes, you can. And I don't think scope will get in the way of any other applications. We'd have to try to find out. I'd be willing to help set that up. But I think the Appscope will work in conjunction with other instrumentation tools. That was the end of my demo, so I do have time for more questions.
Surely there's some more questions. Yeah, okay, well, we do have an offer for getting to work with the Appscope with other tools to see how they affect one another. And I think the question sounded to me like, if you're going to run this against them, it'll obviously work, but will it start reporting on all the things that the other tools are also doing?
Yeah.
Because they're in that same context, right?
Yeah, that was more of the question really is, does the data get skewed because it's picking up the agent's work also, right? So you're not necessarily just getting the application's data. You're getting the application plus the instrumentation data. So does that is that going to mean that the data that's coming out of scope is, not really application data now? Now it's application plus instrumentation agent data.
Yeah, that's interesting. Don, do you have any idea about that?
Well, yeah, you want to manage what processes you're scoping, and you would just say, don't scope the agent in this case. There's several different ways of doing that, including what we describe as a filter file. So you can define what applications you would like to scope, and it'll scope those and not others. So you can get just your Java app and not the agent and so on and so forth. Of course, you can do all of them if you want to, but yeah, you wouldn't. So you can identify specifically which agent, which application, excuse me, that you're concerned about.
Right. So that sounds like the answer is right. It shouldn't. You should be able to set it up so that it's not going to conflict or start reading the other agents working with the same thing.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Still sounds like something you ought to test in your own environment and double check on, but
Yeah, and we'd be happy to work on getting that kind of environment set up and help with the testing.
Yeah, that
one
sounds
thing
great.
that's also kind of similar is Appscope will consume and forward stats-D metrics from applications that are already consuming or producing those stats-D metrics. If you enable that, it's kind of the opposite of what you were asking, but we can do that as well.
right.
Yeah,
So what
I
happens
think,
if you scope a scoped process that you're scoping with Appscope, and you want to monitor what Appscope is doing to the scope, not to what it's doing to? And never mind. I was thinking yeah.
Stop.
How many layers can we get going here before everything falls apart?
Oh,
My guess is many.
yeah, there's a lot of work goes into ensuring that you separate what I describe as the data path from the reporting path. So as the application runs, you want to be, you just want to do real minimal stuff. And all we do is grab data and stick it into a ring buffer. And then a thread runs periodically that will grab stuff out of the ring buffer and report it. So the overhead that your application is seeing is drastically minimized that way.
Right. Okay. All right, are there any other questions, or shall we hand it over to Tony for whatever he's got for us?
I have one more quick one on Appscope. Does it do anything with open telemetry data, or is that completely separate?
Great question. Yes. The step one in open telemetry support is we are exporting. It'll come up in the summer release, so not this the release that's coming up in a couple of months. We're supporting Prometheus application metrics in Prometheus format. That will then allow you to send it up into Edge or Stream, and the OTel destination will knows how to convert from Prometheus into OTel and send that back out to your OTel destinations. So that'll be step one. Step two then is if there's a lot of interest in that, the question is, should we just convert events and metrics both into an OTel format directly? And that depends on basically what you guys say in terms of, but step one will be to use the OTel destination in Edge or Stream.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. I'm trying to do anything to reduce agents, so
Yeah, right.
Cribl, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
We are looking at, we're looking at eBPF data since I already started that, and there's just the licensing crap that goes along with that we're struggling with, but that allows you to get just in comment about other agents and stuff like that, right? So you can now think about you get all the host data from Edge, you get all the application level data from Appscope, and then kernel level data would be possible as well feeding into Edge. So net flow data per process, service level data about on a per interface for port numbers and all that other kind of stuff, routing information, all those TCP internals, all that kind of stuff would then be available. So if that sounds like of interest, holler so we can sort of feed that into priorities and so forth. But you see where I'm going with sort of agents overall. But at that point, you've got a lot of stuff coming into Edge at that point.
All right. All right, well then I think that is it for that. So we see, okay. And that question got answered in there too. Does the inspection use case for upstream TLS inspection is not performed and any suites excluded? Yeah, we see HTTP4. Okay. So Tony, then I believe you have a few quick announcements to make. A whole presentation. You are muted.
Yep, thank you. Too many screens, too much going on. All right. Yeah. We have a couple of things for community. We have the KMS support and usage survey going out right now. It'll close this week. So if you are interested in using KMS or your thoughts and ideas for KMS for how we could use them in Cribl, would love your feedback. Number 2, Cribl Curious has launched the new site. It is up and going. In here, you can see all the questions that people have been asking. And I moved everything over from the old site to the new site, but you can get into the categories here. Right now, we have one question in Appscope that we have. We also have Edge and all the other categories, even packs, just to make sure. Edge, we have a few here. But with that, we're also launched a place for the local user groups to gather. So I'm a member of all the groups, so my groups are everything, but you can make your local area on here. And I see Paul's on here. Paul and I need to reconnect to get the Denver one going. My apologies. It's my bad that it hasn't happened yet, Paul. I still remember you though. But here you can see Atlanta. We have discussions of people asking where they're from. I see Roll Tide's on there, and they have their first event coming up. So a first completely user group run event. So that's awesome. But the big thing we want to kick off, we have officially launched CriblCon registration. So you can go in now and be able to register to attend. It is Monday, the 17th. Here's our overview of our agenda. We'll start with the registration and breakfast, go to some breakouts and some keynotes. Should be a lot of fun, the syslog doesn't have to suck. Syslog was my first use case for Cribl, so a little near and dear to my heart on using syslog. But of course it's Cribl, so we will wrap it up with our party from 6 to 9. Possible sessions. Let us know what your takes on these are. And space is limited. We have only a certain amount of seats that we can have. Fire marshals got talking to us last year because everybody was so awesome and showed up for the Top Golf event. We want to make sure that we indeed have space for everybody. So if you're wanting to come to either the all-day session or to just the party, come and register. Don't be missing out. And for more information, it is criblcon.cribl.io. From there, you can see the schedule. You can register for the event and hit us up with any questions that you may have.
Great. And that will be all until the Tuesday. Let me go ahead and mention when that is. I think it's the 9th.
It is the 9th.
It is the 9th. Yep. So May 9th will be our next one. The same bat time, same bat channel.
I shouldn't have to adjust anything for daylight savings, non-daylight savings.
Nope. We're good until October, November or something. So, all right. See you guys next month.